Good evening, and you're all very welcome to tonight's webinar, which has been brought to you tonight by the Teagasc advisory staff here in County Mayo. My name is Brendan Garry. I work in Teagasc Ballinrobe, and tonight, for the next hour, I'm delighted to be your host for this webinar. Now, this evening's webinar is the fourth and final episode in a series of webinars which we have ran throughout the month of February. And during this new series, we have covered some of the key agricultural issues facing Irish farmers in 2023, and tonight will be no different. And tonight the focus switches to looking at two very important topics, with the first topic being presented by my colleague Alan Nolan in Teagasc Ballinrobe. And Alan is going to talk to us about the new proposed Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme, which is often abbreviated to SCEP, and it is essentially the successor scheme to the BDGP programme, which many of our viewers have participated in. And later, Peter Comer from Teagasc Ballinrobe will discuss some of the latest changes there to the Nitrates Regulations. So please stay tuned with us there for that. Now, you, the viewers, are being encouraged to engage with our speakers here tonight, and we ask you to type your questions into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens, phones or tablets. And later this evening, Vivian Silke, the Teagasc Regional Manager here in County Mayo, will put your questions live to our panellists. So please type your questions into the Q&A box. As always, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to watch back on the Teagasc Mayo YouTube channel in the coming days. And indeed, if you missed any of the 3 previous episodes, it's available also to watch back on the Teagasc Mayo YouTube channel. So indeed, check us out there. So without further delay, I'll now ask you, Alan, to start sharing your presentation with us. And it's over to you now, Alan.
Okay, Brendan, thank you. And good evening to everybody there. And I hope you can see that, Brendan, can you?
That's perfect, Alan. Now, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. So look at you, as Brendan said, my name is Alan Nolan, and I'm a Teagasc dry stock advisor here working in the Teagasc office in Ballinrobe. And this evening we're going to talk about this new Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme, or as Brendan said, it's abbreviated there to SCEP. So I suppose over the last few years, farmers have got used to the BDGP, the BEEP, BEEP-S, and BEAM, and there was a lot of different schemes there. So all those schemes now are officially finished in 2022. So this is like a fresh start again in the new CAP programme from 23 to 27. So just moving on there, as I said, this replaces the BDGP scheme that was running there from 2015 to 2022. So a lot of you were in that, a lot of you are familiar with the requirements of it, and some of them are repeated in this new program that we'll run through. So it's a 5-year scheme. So that is one thing to know too. So if you are getting into it, it's a 5-year commitment that you're getting into from 23 to 27 inclusive. There's a budget there of 256 million for the 5 years. Now, the application date is going to be from sometime in the middle of March and the closing date of the 15th of May, which is going to be the same closing date as you will have for your BIS applications that you would have learned about 2 weeks ago on one of these webinars as well. One thing that I should point out at the very beginning is that the terms and conditions of this scheme is not out yet, but what we have here is information that the department has provided to us on a number of occasions there over the last few weeks and months. How you apply again is going to be online, like all the schemes over the last few years at agfood.ie. You can apply yourself, or you can get an agent or an advisor to apply for you. It's going to be open to all suckler farmers. So whether you were in the BDGP programme or you weren't in the BDG programme, well, this is open to you to join. Okay, so it's open to all suckler farmers. And the objective there is to provide support to suckler farmers to improve the environmental sustainability of the national beef herd. So it is an environmental scheme, and for that reason, the payment is going to be on a per hectare basis, which was the same as the BDGP scheme in the past. So the payment rates there, just to put them up, and I put them up against the old BDGP payments as well, just to compare, that for the first 15 hectares there, you're going to get paid 225 euros per hectare. And thereafter, you're going to get paid 180 per remaining eligible hectare. And I will show you how this breaks down on a per cow basis there very shortly. But just to compare there where it was with the old BDGP payments, it was 142.50 there per hectare for the first 6.66 eligible hectares, and 120 per remaining eligible hectare. So those were the old BDGP payments, and there is increased payments now in this new scheme, but there is also extra requirements as well, which we'll go through. So in terms of getting the scheme reference figure, and this will be the figure that will determine your payment going forward, you're going to be provided with historical calving data from 2016 to 2021. And that will be provided to you at the application time. So any of you that had sheep would be familiar with this already. You went through it with the sheep improvement scheme. You will then be able to pick the 3 best years out of that 6, and the average will become your reference number moving forward. So you will get no payment above that reference number, or that's the ceiling, that's the highest figure that you'll get paid on. But there will be scope to reduce numbers without penalty each year. And this option will be available each spring, which you will do online. So if you are reducing in numbers, this option will be available to you. For new applicants there with no calving data at the minute for those years 2016 to 2020 or 21, they'll be regarded as new entrants, and they will get an option there to declare a target for 2023 at the application stage. So they will be treated differently, and a lot of that will become clearer when the terms and conditions are out as well. So the payment calculation itself, just looking at it here and working out. So just an example that we'd have, if we have a farmer here that when you take out the 3 best years, there's an average of 20. So that's 20 calvings is the average that you'll have from your 3 best years there. So this is the scheme reference ceiling for the duration of the scheme. You're not going to get paid above the figure of 20. Now what's done here is the reference number of 20 is divided by 1.5 hectares, and that'll give you the maximum payable area, or this MPA, and that means that you'll have 13.33 hectares. So what that means is that you have to declare 13.33 hectares every year on your BIS application to get paid on these 20 cows. So that's the minimum there. Now, in my experience in the past, that was there in the BDGP as well. Because stocking rates aren't awfully high here in the West, it generally wasn't a problem. But it usually might only raise its head if there's leased land or rented land and somebody loses land at some stage over the next 5 years. So as an example there, in this new scheme in year 2, a farmer can opt to set an annual reference. So if for some reason a farmer lost land or there was a reduction in cow numbers for some reason, the farmer can go in there in year 2 and set an annual reference figure there of 16. And that's a reduction of 20%, because I think the department are just allowing a reduction of 20% per year. All the scheme targets then are readjusted based on this figure of 16, and the payment figure is recalculated as well, and your payment based on this figure of 16. If you got land back again, or cow numbers went back up again in year 3, you can opt to go back up to 20 again. So just to know that there is a bit of flexibility in it, which wasn't there in the BDGP in the past. So just looking there at the payment calculation and how it's worked out. So again, we have a farmer A here, and that's the annual reference of 20 cows again, right? So it's divided by 1.5, so you have 13.33 hectares. So you must declare this amount each year in your BIS application. And the payment there is worked out at 225. Because it's less than 15 hectares, you're getting paid on 225 per hectare multiplied by the 13.33, and that's giving you a figure of 3,000 there. So if we were to work this back again, that's working out at a payment of 150 per suckler cow. So really what we're doing there is dividing the 3,000 by the 20 cows that we had here, and it's given a payment of 150. So for farmers, it's probably an easier figure to understand there, that they're getting paid 150 euros there for those first number of cows. And how that compared with the BDGP in the past, you were getting paid on 95 euros on the first 10 cows. So if we take another example here, farmer B, who has a higher number of cows, has an annual reference there of 35. So again, you divide by the 1.5, and this farmer here needs to have 23.33 hectares on their BIS application each year. So that's the minimum that they must apply in their BIS application each year. So in this case now, they're getting paid 225 euros per hectare on the first 15 hectares, giving us 3,375. And then they're getting paid 180 on the remaining 8.33 hectares to bring you up to the 23.33. And that's giving you a 1,500 figure here. So there's a total payment here of 4,975. So again, when you work that out, it's 150 euros per suckler cow on the first. I suppose 22.5 is the way it works out here. I know you can't have 22.5 cows, but we'll say the first 22 cows, and a payment then of 120 per suckler cow on the remaining cows after that. And again, just to compare with the old BDGP, that was 95 in the first 10 and 80 thereafter. So that's I suppose an important slide there in terms of working out and looking at the payment and the payment that you're going to get out of it. In terms of the eligibility requirements that's needed, look at some of these are standard in a lot of applications. You must be aged 18 years or over. You have to be a holder of an active herd number. You must submit a valid base application each year. So I don't think there's any problem with these ones. I suppose the one I've down in red here, and this is going to be a big one, and it's a new one in terms of when you compare it back with the BDGP, is that you must be a member of the Board BIA Quality Assurance scheme, and that you must remain a member for the duration of the program as well. So really, it's an important one to highlight there. What the department were saying initially is that you had to be a member at the time of application. I think there's been some little bit of leeway there now because Board BIA have been swamped lately with applications. So when the terms and conditions come out, hopefully we'll have a date there, but there is talk of a date around September, October, that the shutters will come down and you just have to be a member of the Board BIA Quality Assurance. But it is a requirement there, and it is going to stay a requirement as part of this new scheme. It replaces the old Carbon Navigator that you used to fill out on the BDGP. Another change that's there now as well this time around is that you must calve down at least 50% of your reference number each year. So what this means, again, going back to our farmer A at the beginning that had 20 suckler cows as the reference figure, you must calve down 10 cows each year then. And that is a change again from the BDGP, where in the past that wasn't in the BDGP, and some farmers reduced numbers hugely, went down to 2 or 3 cows and still managed to meet all the requirements. So that's a new one there. You must also attend a SCEP training course and also a half-day animal handling course. So there's 2 courses there by the end of year 2. So that'll be at some date in 2024, and that's a requirement that you will have to do as well. So look at failure to meet these requirements then, like all schemes in the past, can mean non-payment, penalties, removal, and recoupment of money. So it's important to realize what's at stake here before getting in. And I have to highlight that quality assurance one. That's a big one. So if you're not in it at the minute, you should really be applying to Board BIA to get into the quality assurance now and try and get that squared off as soon as you can. So just looking at some of the mandatory actions that you have to do, there's 4 main headings here. It's the replacement strategies, the weight recording, which used to be a part of the BEEP scheme, but's now incorporated into this new Suckler Carbon scheme, the genotyping and the data recording. And you must complete all actions there for all the 5 years of the scheme to get the full payment. So it's important that you do each of these. So looking at the replacement strategy and just starting there with the sires. So the requirement there is in years 1 and 2 that 80% of the calves produced on the farm must be from a 4 or 5 star sire. And that's where it finished off in the BDGP. That's the target that farmers had to reach there for the last number of years. So that's the starting point this time around. So I suppose it's important to point out that there is higher targets in this new scheme, and the department have argued that it needed to be more ambitious again than the BDGP. So it is rising, and in years 3 and 4, this 80% increases to 85%, and in year 5, it increases to 90%. So the calves can either be sired by AI or stock bull. So it doesn't matter where the calves come from, whether they're out of AI or whether they're stock bull. The main thing is that they are produced from a genotyped 4 and 5 star stock bull on either the terminal or the replacement index. So just one note of caution I had there is just be careful if you're buying in calf heifers and you're not sure of the sire or what they're in calf to. It could put you in trouble then in terms of reaching this requirement. Okay, so that's maybe just one little thing to watch out for. In terms of the dams then, again, starting off at the same point that the BDGP left off, if we want to put it that way, in that you have to have 50% of your reference number must be 4 and 5 star females on the replacement index. Okay, so again, our example, our farmer A, if you have 20 suckler cows, you must have 10 4 and 5 star females on the 31st of October on the replacement index. And again, the targets are rising then. So years 3 and 4, this increases to 65%. And in year 5, it increases out to 75%. Okay, as in the BDGP, the females, they must be 16 months of age to qualify, but the females must be genotype 4 or 5 star on the replacement index. Now, one big change, which is again different to the BDGP, and again, it'll become clearer when we have the full terms and conditions, but it's been fairly well flagged by the department, is that these numbers must be retained on the holding throughout the year. So in other words, it's not just a matter of reaching this figure on the 31st of October and offloading a lot of the 4 and 5 star heifers or cows on the 3rd or 4th of November. So if you had again farmer A with 20 suckler cows and you need to have 10 of them on the 31st of October, you must retain that 10 then for the next 12 months. And as I said, that'll become a lot clearer when the terms and conditions come out. In terms of the next one there, which is the weight recording, again, the figure that's down here now is one figure that was given out by the department is 50%. There has been word that this may be a little bit higher in some outlets. It's been talked about 80%. So that's one figure that's not fully clear just yet till the terms and conditions come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But the weight recording is going to be a part of this. And again, you must weigh a certain percentage of your reference number each year, and you must submit these weights by the 1st of November. And farmers that were in the BEEP scheme for the last few years have been used to doing this now. So it'll be the same requirement again, weigh the unweaned calf and its dam on the same day. And again, you can use your own scales, or you can use a rental model that you can get out of the co-op. The important thing there to note is that the scales must be registered with ICBF. Now, one other thing to point out here, again, it'll be confirmed when the terms and conditions come out, is that there is likely to be a minimum age and a maximum age that the calf will have to be. So in other words, in the BEEP scheme, it didn't matter what age it is, but there's been talk now that there will be a minimum age possibly of 100 days and a maximum age of 300 days, so that you have to weigh the calves in that time frame. So it could be a little bit tricky if you have a very spread out calving pattern. Other mandatory actions there, so genotyping, and again, for anyone that was in the BDGP, you were used to doing this in the past, so you must genotype or take the tissue tag there on 70% of the reference number each year. So again, going back to our farmer A, the reference figure of 20 there, so you must genotype 14 animals each year. So for farmers that were in the BDGP, the likelihood is a lot of their cows and heifers are genotyped at this stage. So you will be mainly genotyping calves as they're born there. And ICBF will nominate the animals for tissue sampling as normal, but you can nominate different animals if you want to. And that facility was always there in the past to go into the ICBF there and choose different animals if you want to do that. And the last mandatory action there is the data recording. Again, farmers have been used to doing this over the last number of years. So you need to provide a range of data there through animal events and through the records. Again, you can fill in a lot of this online on ICBF, or some farmers were used to filling out the sheets that were coming back and doing it manually, the record sheets and the surveys. So for the calves, just as an example there, you were doing calf size, calf figure, calf quality, calf docility, and other traits there. On the cow side, you were looking at dam docility, dam milk, given reasons why you sold the cows or why she was culled. And there is likely there to be new, maybe traits included in this new scheme. And again, they'll become clearer there. So all those items will have to be recorded there. And because of that, the same as the BDGP, you will have to keep your calf till he's 5 months of age. So that old rule that was there in the BDGP will likely to be there in the new scheme going forward as well. Okay, look at just a few final comments there, because I'm conscious of keeping it on time. Get the quality assurance application in, submitted as soon as possible. It is a 5-year commitment, and that's important people know that. So if there is farmers out there that are thinking of getting out of suckler cows, maybe this might not suit you, because it is a 5-year commitment. You must complete all the actions to get the full payment. For farmers that weren't in the BDGP in the past, they should maybe check their Eurostar ratings in their herd just to see where their current status is, because they may have a little bit of catching up to do. They mightn't have many of their herd genotyped at present. So it's no harm to just log on to ICBF there and see what their Eurostar ratings are like. And having said that, as I said, it may not suit everyone, and there may be some negative commentary when it comes out. But having said all that, there is higher payments when it's compared to the BDGP. And going back to our farmer again with a reference figure of 20, it's an annual payment there of 3,000 and over 5 years, that's 15,000. And for any farmer that's committed to suckler farming or serious about suckler farming, I personally don't think that's money you can leave behind, and you have to consider applying for the scheme. I'm just very, very briefly going to mention a few other little items here before I hand back to Brendan. The department have committed to another scheme, which will be a replacement for the BEEP scheme. It's a national beef welfare scheme. The details aren't out at the minute, but in the last budget, there was 23 million allocated for this scheme. The scheme options are not decided yet. The only thing we know is that the weighing won't be part of it because it's part of this Suckler Carbon scheme now. The meal feeding that we see with these animals on the right is likely to be continued again with some additional welfare options added into it. And the application period for that is likely to be in July and August in 23. So that's something for suckler farmers again to watch out for, and payments will be in December 23. Just one other beef scheme to point out there is a dairy beef calf measure for 23. So for any of you out there that are rearing dairy bred calves, there's no changes to the existing scheme that was in place there in 2022. So what that means is that basically it's the same requirements, deadlines, everything. You weigh dairy bred calves and you submit the weights by the 1st of November to ICBF. There's a payment there of €20 per calf up to a maximum of 40 calves. You must have a minimum of 5. And the eligible calves there, they have to be born from the 1st of July 22 to the 30th of June 2023. They have to be at least 12 weeks of age, and it must be a male calf of a dairy breed, which in other words is a kind of a Frisian calf of a dairy breed, or a male or female calf sired by a beef breed. So if you have an Angus cross or a Hereford cross, heifer or sire, they're eligible there once they're born to a dairy bred animal. So look, that's nearly it. This scheme will only be in place for 1 year. From 2024, it's moving on, and the payment will be for the use of high DBI or high commercial beef value index cows on the dairy side. So really, this payment is moving on to the dairy side there for using dairy beef AI and encouraging more dairy beef AI. It'll be €20 per straw for a maximum of 40. So there's just one last year on this scheme for anyone that has it. And look, that's it, Brendan. I'm going to hand back to you, and I'll take any questions that come later on there with Vivian.
That's great, Alan. I'll just get you just to stop sharing your presentation. You've done that, yeah. So just while we're getting ready and changing over to Peter there, we've had a lot of farmers on this evening, over 120 farmers again, and just maybe to gauge your interest in this new scheme that Alan just spoke about, we're just going to quickly launch one short poll there in a moment's time. It's just going to pop up on your screen there. It's just about this new scheme, and I suppose the question is, do you intend on joining the new SCEP program in 2023? It's just one question, and you can answer yes or no or undecided or not applicable if we have some farmers that don't have a breeding stock. And indeed, we leave the poll running for about 5 to 7 minutes, and after Peter's presentation, we'll come back and we'll see what the surveys look like. So you can minimize once you your vote casted, and we leave it running in the background. So Peter, at this stage of the evening, I'll now ask you to start sharing your presentation with us. Peter Comer from Teagasc Ballinrobe, and Peter's going to talk to us about the new changes to the Nitrates Regulations. So over to you now, Peter.
Thank you, Brendan. Just get my screen up.
That's perfect, Peter. Thank you very much.
That is there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Right. So as Brendan said, my name is Peter Comer, and I'm a Teagasc SCEP advisor. I think my colleague Mary Roach was talking to you last week on water quality. So I'm continuing on that vein this week, but dealing mainly with the new nitrates changes, because they're mostly to do with water quality. So I'm just going to run through the background, a little bit of background, maybe just some of the legal things there. Then this main body of the talk is on the new recent changes to the Nitrates Action Programme that came in this year, like spreading periods there. You can see them: soiled water, sampling, buffer strips, cow banding. I'm going to concentrate more on the sort of the medium to average stocked farmer rather than the very highly stocked farmers or the derogation farmers, because they've had plenty of talks and presentations on that already. And the derogation there, as I say, I'll mention it, but not in huge detail. And then we'll have a quick look at the interim review and some summary and conclusions. So to get straight into it there, the looking at water quality policy in Ireland, the big one is the EU Water Framework Directive. So that's in for many years now, way back in 2000, with the objectives there to protect and enhance all waters. Of course, it's an EU directive, and it's the main objective is to achieve good status for all waters by 2027. Now we're keep moving the goalposts on that, but the final goalpost we'll say is 2027. And we're not there yet. As Mary would have said, only about 50% of waters are at good status. Okay, so it's all about managing water bodies based on river catchments. And a big thing with the Water Framework Directive is trying to bring everybody along, engage with the public, let everybody know what's happening so that we've all a shared goal. Now, the plan to achieve the Water Framework obligations, they're set out in Ireland's River Basin Management Plan. So we've had the first and we've had the second, and now we're on our third and final River Basin Management Plan, 2022 to 2027. It's actually still in draft, but it'll be published now shortly. And that gives you all the guidelines, and the EPA is the main author there. So how can we achieve good status? All of that is written into the River Basin Management Plan. It's all about putting the right measure in the right place and looking for a greater level of collaboration, because in the first and second River Basin Management Plans, it was deemed that it was more top-down rather than bottom-up. But this third one is more bottom-up, more collaboration, and that's why LawPro, which are the catchment scientists, and SCEP, which is the Agricultural Sustainability and Support Body of which I'm working, that's why they were introduced, to try and get more communications going between all the bodies and get better one-to-one information to farmers. And then finally there, the main piece of legislation that we were talking about tonight is the Nitrates Directive, implemented by the Nitrates Action Programme. So that's all in SI 113, plus there's a number of amendments. That's the main piece of legislation. And it sets out all the requirements and limits on farming that we're going to go through now. Okay, and just briefly there, of course, this is the 5th Nitrates Action Plan. So you've had 1 to 4 has already come and passed. So look, there was a number of changes. Each action plan brings along a number of changes. So up to now, it has mostly been, the changes have mostly been for higher stock farmers and dairy farmers. So for example, excluding bovines there from water courses and fencing off water courses. Again, that was for over 170 kgs, moving water troughs back 20 meters, again over 170. Or if cows had to cross the river on a daily basis, you had to fence either side and keep them out of the river, except when they were crossing. Ideally, you should have put in a bridge or a culvert, but they can be expensive. Again, that was for over 170. The last one there, which came in 2021, that's actually for all farmers, and that was on farm roadways. So if you have a farm roadway along a drain or a water body, you have to try and camber it away from the stream or the drain, because the stipulation is that no dirty water can run off into a drain or a stream. And as I said, that's for all farmers, regardless of stocking rate. So I mentioned derogation there once or twice, but we're not really going into that tonight. That would take a whole program in itself. But just to explain it, a derogation allows a farmer to stock at over 170 kgs in the year of application, up to a max of 250. Now, you can export slurry to come under the 170, and many farmers do that. 4,000 or 5,000 farmers do that. It may become harder to do that in the future, especially because of they've lowered the nitrogen now in slurry. It was 5 kgs per 1,000 gallons. It's now 2.4. So that means you have to export double the volume of slurry to bring you under the same amount as you used to. So a bit of caution there. Also severe caution there for people that are importing the slurry, especially if you're up around the 130, as we'll see later, and you don't have soil samples. You really don't want to get caught there. So if you're importing slurry, you'd want to show that you can take it, especially from a P point of view. The other final point on the derogation is the 250 limit is coming under increasing pressure now from Brussels and the EPA. because of water quality not improving. And the interim review is in June of this year, I think, and there's high speculation that it might be reduced to 220. Remember, Ireland and Denmark and Holland and parts of Belgium, they're the only countries that have a derogation. And the Netherlands, they're not even going to seek to renew theirs in 2025. So, you know, we're in a very much in a minority in the EU in having a derogation. Okay, so just background to the review that brought in the current changes. Well, fertilizer use therefore is the big driver, because chemical nitrogen usage has been going up and up each year, 30 to 40,000 tons there since 2017 increased usage. Now, I know it did go down last year, but that was more to do with, I suppose, Mr. Putin and things externally rather than voluntarily. The dairy herd there has been increasing, a 12% increase in dairy cow numbers. So from 2017 to 2021. So mostly increased in concentrated there in the south and east, and coincidentally then, or maybe not, that's where we're seeing most of the rise in the nitrate now in the water, in the estuaries and the coastal waters, especially increased nitrate. And they're putting two and two together, I suppose, and saying it has to be coming from increase in dairy pressure. And I suppose the big one is for the review is water quality. As I said, the Water Framework Directive says 2027 is our deadline. We know that there's only 50% at that. And what's really disappointing, I suppose, is that water quality is trending downwards. In other words, in or around 3% a decline year on year. So it's going in the wrong direction, really. Hopefully, the Third River Basin Management Plan and SCEP and LAWPRO and that can try and do things to try and halt the reverse and get the trend moving upwards. Okay, so if now go on to the main meat of the presentation, really is the new changes that have come in 2023. So the first one there is the fertilizer and slurry close period. So chemical fertilizer close period, well, that ended this year on the 29th of January. If you remember, that used to be the 16th of January, you could start spreading fertilizer. Now that's gone up to the 30th of January. So a two-week delay there. Won't affect a huge amount of people, I suppose, here in the West, maybe some highly stocked dairy farmers. That's for Zone B, which we're in here. The other one is the slurry close period. Well, that now starts, or is going to start on the 1st of October, this back end, 2023. As you know, last year it was the 8th of October, and prior to that, it was the 15th. Okay, so that's, as I say, must get all your slurry out by the 1st of October this year. Now, that is supported, those sort of actions are supported by the Agricultural Catchments Programme research, because they do detailed analysis in 6 selected catchments around the country. And they find that over 40% of nitrate runoff and leaching occurs during the close period with the higher rainfall and lower growth. So that's why it's, you know, some people say it's calendar farming, but there's very good scientific basis behind it. Less growth, more rainfall, therefore more leaching. Okay, the next one change is more efficient use of slurry by using low emission slurry spreading equipment. And this is going to be based now on the grassland stocking rate in the previous year prior to any exports. So coming in this year then, all farmers operating above 150 kgs from 2023 on, if you're in that category this year, you have to use all low emission slurry spreading for your slurry. So that's going to bring in a good few more into the net, especially here in the West. All farmers then, next year it's all farmers operating above 130. That's coming in 2024. And finally in 2025, all farmers operating over 100 kgs. So that's going to bring in a huge amount of farmers then having to use the low emission slurry spreading, either their own or contractor. And of course, if you're getting pig slurry, that all has to go out using the low emission. Okay, now there's some changes on the soil water storage and management, mainly for dairy farmers, of course. So this year now, but you need the close period is between the 10th and 31st of December. So a 3-week closed period there that you can't spread soiled water. And then next year, that's going to increase to 4 weeks from the 1st of December to the 31st. So no spreading of soiled water in 2024 for the ordinary milkman. But if you're in winter milk, you get a year longer. And also the soiled water storage requirements have increased. So 3 weeks this year in 2023, that's 21 days, up from 15 days, we'll say. 4 weeks storage in 2024. And again, the winter milk people have another year to comply with that. Okay, now a big one here that will affect all farmers, not just the high stocking ones, and that's from 2023, all farmers above 130 must take soil samples based, if the 130 is based on the grassland stocking rate of the previous year. And all arable land must be soil sampled as well, if you're sowing barley or potatoes or whatever. So this is going to catch out a lot of people, and we've been trying to get the word out there. If you're in or around the 130, you should get your soil samples taken, because if you don't, in red there, you can see where there's no soil samples taken, well, index 4 is going to be assumed. And on the charts, when you look at it, at index 4, no chemical P is allowed. So if you're over 130 and you have spread 18612 or pasture sward or cut sward, you'll be in breach of the rules if you don't have soil samples to prove that you're allowed to spread it. So that's a big one there to watch out for. Now, some more changes there on buffer strips and coming in 2023 for chemical fertilizer, and this is for all land. There's now a 3-meter buffer strip required to be back from all waters when you're spreading your chemical fertilizer. And it says all waters, not just the blue-lined ones on the OSI map. So all waters, so that's your streams, obviously, but your drains, dry drains, karst features such as swallow holes or turloughs, etc. You must keep 3 meters back from that. So that's a fair bit, and that's one to watch. Now, that's up from, that rule was always there, but it was 2 meters up to this. But in 2023, it has been increased to 3 meters. And the bottom picture there is on the slurry buffer, that's there, that didn't change. It's still 5 meters for the most part. 5 meters, that buffer doesn't look like 5, maybe 1.5 or 2, but 5 meters is the buffer for slurry, no change in it. And of course, 10 meters in for the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks of the spreading season, and then more if you're near drinking water sources. And another one there that might catch some people, for tillage land, you need a 3-meter uncultivated buffer strip there for arable crops up against water courses. So keep that in mind. And a 6-meter uncultivated buffer strip is required to protect intersecting water courses there for late harvested crops. So just watch out for that as well. Okay. So just another one then on commonage land management, there's a change there that the max stocking rate now on the commonage is 50 kgs. That's all that can be allocated to it. The equivalent is 7 mountain ewes per hectare. That used to be 170, and I suppose highly stocked farmers used to take advantage of that in renting or even buying commonage to lower their stocking rate on the greenland. But that's sort of been clawed back now. So the 170 is down to 50, so it'll be of less value. And of course, no chemical fertilizer can be allowed or allocated to commonage land. So again, things like that are helping drive up the price then of rented land, especially for higher stocked farmers, because the loopholes are being closed off. And again, driving up rental land will be this one here. This is the banding excretion rates for dairy cows. So this is new now this year. So there's 3 bands. So the under 4,500, the nitrogen per cow there, organic is 80. The middle band, band 2, 4.5 to 6.5. The band is, or the the rate is 92 kgs organic per cow. So most farmers are in the middle band, around 66% of it. And the old figure here, of course, was 89, or the year before that, it was 85 for many years. So a small change there for a lot of farmers, going from, we'll say, 85 up to 92, but it won't make a massive difference. But then when you start getting into the band 3, the high band over 6,500 kgs, 106, so that's a sizable change there, and it will influence or affect a good few farmers, maybe 20% of farmers there that'll have to take action there. Again, maybe more land, or maybe something on affecting cow yield, or picking the best one that suits you. We'll look at that in a minute. So the aim here is to recognize the differences in the nutrient excretion rates across the different herds. It's going to be based on the average milk yield herd on a 3-year rolling basis, or for the preceding year. So that would be 2022 in this case, or the 3-year rolling average, whichever suits you best. And I think just now, I think today, I think it was announced that 2023 may also or will be included as well.
Peter, just a couple of minutes now, Peter, because we have a lot of questions in there from
all right.
Yeah,
okay, and it's ICBF that'll do it. So yeah, if you're in the high band there, you will be losing a good few cows. Just a few other things there. 10% reduction in nitrogen. Okay, that's there. One for all farmers there. The storage of silage bales. In 2023, a max of 2 high. If you're not able to collect the storage and effluent, a max of 2 high there. So that might catch some people out. And the other one there is the technical tables that I was on about. The slurry that has implications for the importing and exporting. So the nitrogen going from 5 down to 2.4, and the P going from 0.8 to 0.5. So there are changes there as well. And this fertilizer sales database that is due to come in. It's going through the Dáil at the minute, so it should be ready for later in the year. So the main thing there is to keep a track of your fertilizer purchases. From now on, you will have to give your herd number to the co-op, and the co-ops will have to keep a lot of records now. So don't forget that's coming in. On the compliance, there are going to be more inspections. So just try and make sure your house is in order, especially for derogation farmers, because it's based on risk. So the inspections there are going from 5 to 10%, and the extension of and expansion of SCEP. So that's my own program. So that's still going to be there in the future to help farmers. So to finish, Brendan, rushing through the interim review, that's going to be interesting. The big one is will the derogation, will it come from 250 down to 230 or 220 rather? That's the big one there. And also there might be other things like another 5% cut in fertilizer chemical usage, or you might have to cover outdoor stores, things like that. Now, the water quality and dairy intensification, there's still going to be challenges right up to 2026. But the 4th and 5th nitrate action programs especially, they have brought in a lot of strong actions. So if they're all implemented and given time to work, we could see an improvement in water quality and turn it around. But the direction of travel for all farms is less nitrogen or reduced nitrogen, increased use of low emissions, more storage for animal manures and soil water. And don't forget that the new TAMS 3 is now open. So if you have to do investments to help comply with any of these, take advantage of the TAMS 3. It's open now, and there's some generous grants there. So I leave it at that, Brendan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. I'll just get you to stop sharing your presentation there just with us. Okay. And indeed, just while we're in the process of changing over there to our speakers and our questions and answers, just a quick update there on the survey there that we ran there earlier on. We asked you there, were you interested and intending to apply for the new SCEP scheme that Alan spoke about? So 82% of our participants voted, almost 100 of you there casted your votes. 52% of you are interested in joining the new SCEP program. 12% of you are saying no to SCEP. It mightn't be for you at the moment. 25% of you on tonight voted that you were undecided. So indeed, look, that's good information for us to know. And indeed, 11% of you there vote tonight that SCEP isn't relevant for your farm, because we have some dairy farmers on tonight as well, so, or maybe calf to beef farmers. So at this stage of the evening, I'm now going to hand it over to Vivian Silke. We have a lot of questions in there. So good evening, Vivian.
Thanks, Brendan. And just a reminder to the viewers that the questions, the people that ask questions shall remain anonymous. We're not going to reveal who they are, so you can have full confidence in that. There's a lot of questions, so I get straight into them, and I'll ask Peter and Alan to try and keep their answers as brief and to the point as possible, because we've a lot of questions. We'll probably get more as we go through. And again, thanks to the two lads for the informative presentations. Peter, we'll give you a chance to catch your breath there for a moment. So I'll go to you, Alan. First one is, what options are available for guys that were calving, we'll say last back in last autumn, in terms of joining the new scheme? Do they record the weights now, or log them onto the ICBF, or what's the protocol there? Do you know?
Yeah, Vivian, I get them to do the weigh-in and log on. That's if they're going selling now very shortly. Look, we expect the scheme to be open from the middle of March. If they want to wait till then, they'll have the full terms and conditions. But if they're going to sell before the middle of March, the advice I'd have is weigh, and you can record them there on ICBF. There's a record events tab, and you can record the weights in there. Just make sure it's done with a registered scales.
Okay, so that's the best sense you can give at the minute, then, in absence of the terms and conditions. Okay. Yeah. Okay, the next one, Alan, is, does the herd owner have to complete the SCEP training course that you mentioned, and the handling course? I think that's from a health and safety point of view to minimize injuries and so on. And or can they nominate a family member, say a son or daughter?
Yeah, again, that's one we're going to find difficult to answer, Vivian, because we haven't got the terms and conditions. Like in the past, a nominee was allowed, but in more recent schemes, the department are insisting on the herd owner doing the actual training, and there is a suggestion that that's the way this is going to go, but I can't answer that for definite without the full terms and conditions on that one.
Okay, as you said, if other schemes are anything to go by, we'll say the sub won't be allowed. I'd say that's the way they've moved more recently. Yeah, that's the best estimate we can come to. Yeah. Okay. Another one now again, Alan, for you is, can some of the reference number be heifers, similar to the BDGP, and also maybe possibly not them actually being in care for bred as well, as in the age gap? Can you speculate yet?
Yeah, well, can some be of the reference number be heifers? Yeah, well, the reference number, just to be clear first, like the reference number is based on what has happened historically. Like, we'll say the cows that have calved. So it is cows that calve from 2016 to 2021. That's how the reference number is calculated. But if this listener is asking about then the 4 and 5 star female requirement, some of those can be made up of female heifers that are over 16 months, provided their genotype 4 and 5 star. And if it was based on the BDGP in the past, some of them did not have to be in calf. But you must remember, in Vivian, in this scheme now, 50% of the reference number of cows must calve down. So people need to keep that in mind as well when they're thinking of these.
As you mentioned in the presentation, that's a critical change from the BDGP, where some people had very small numbers of cows versus the reference that actually allowed them to continue on with the scheme. So yeah, they tightened that up on that. Okay, the next one, Alan, for you is, someone you mentioned this quite clearly, and you pointed it out several times in the presentation, in terms of joining the quality assurance and being a member of that scheme, I suppose. And the question here from one of the viewers is, what happens if a participant actually fails an audit, maybe in year 3? And any idea what may happen there?
Yeah, well, sure. The indications we've got from what we've seen so far, Vivian, is that you're in danger of being removed from the scheme. That's the likelihood if you fail it. And I suppose a bigger concern there is that there might be recoupment of money already paid, so you might have to pay back money. But I suppose just to put it in perspective there a little bit, like Board B, the auditors that come out, especially on the first visit, would usually try and help the farmers there and give them recommendations on maybe improvements or things that they'd have to do, and maybe give a bit of, you call it, advice and guidance. And really it's up to the farmer then to kind of implement and do those actions that might be needed. So there should be a fair chance, unless there's I'd say big issues there at stake that you're not doing, that would lead to that. But it is a danger. It is something that you do have to be a member for the 5 years.
Yeah, in fairness, in recent years, if there is a couple of slight problems, they give you kind of a month to rectify it and sort it out, go back online and do it. So there is a good common sense approach with most auditors. So it wouldn't be a huge fear of mine, thinking about the scheme. But if things are majorly wrong, well then, the repercussions from that. Another one here, can the SCEP be accessed using, we'll say, Angus cross dairy heifers that might be carrying embryo calves? Are they eligible? I don't know if you understand the question.
Yeah, Angus cross.
So they'd be recipients maybe carrying high quality pedigree, maybe Shirley's or Belgian Blues.
Yeah.
And are they eligible for the scheme, as in if there were 4 and 5 stone?
Yeah, it's a tricky one again, Vivian, but usually what's there, it said is if the cow belongs to a beef breed and is sired by a beef breed. I think that was the kind of wording that was always there in the past, like, you know, and the cow was used to rear a calf by suckling. So it depends on the makeup of those Angus cross dairy heifers there, like, you know, if they have an Angus as their sire, like that would be considered a beef breed, like, you know.
If they're Angus sired and their genotype in the 4 and 5 star, I predict that they would be okay, irrespective of what calf they have, whether they're their own or an embryo calf.
Yeah.
They are a beef cow and they have reared in a beef calf.
Calf, and they're used then, as I said, to rear the calf for suckling. That's usually the criteria, like.
Yeah, they should be okay. Another one which comes up across schemes, and you may speculate and answer on this one. Can the farms be transferred to father and son during maybe the 5 or 6 year contract of the new scheme?
Yeah, I would be pretty confident that can be, Vivian. Like, you know, usually if the son in that situation agrees to abide by the terms and conditions and agrees to stick to the 5 year contract, like, you know, fulfills the terms and conditions for the 5 years, I can't see a problem with that one.
Yeah, I would also say to that listener or that viewer that to look for permission in advance of actually doing it. Because I know with GLAS and other schemes in the past that once you ask the department for permission before you actually change any identity on the herd number, there's no problem. But just to remember that one.
It might be a bigger issue there, Vivian, and when the terms and conditions come out, that listener might just want to check it out, is if the father stays farming for 2 or 3 years and decides to get out, and the son doesn't want to continue, then that could be a bigger issue, decides to want to get out of suckling and get into something different. Could be a bit of a concern there. So maybe that listener might just check that out a bit more when the terms and conditions come out.
Yeah. Okay. A question for you, Peter. And it's related to your presentation. Under the newly announced bovine fencing under TAMS, and Alan mentioned that as well. What type of stakes are to be used, given the impending or the oncoming ban on creosote? Have you any thoughts on that?
To be honest, Vivian, I haven't. But no, I'd really have to check that one out now. I assume it'll be whatever the department spec is. Like, I don't know, have they got the new spec out with the ban on creosote? I don't know.
Sure. No, I didn't.
I'm
know
not 100% on that one.
I didn't know it was banned. We might be able to get back to that if you were. Later in the week, by email, we can clarify the conditions on that.
The terms and conditions on that, Brenda, Vivian, aren't just out on all the times yet. It's mainly the costings and all the different items that came out there during the week. But again, the full terms and conditions aren't out. It'll probably come out in the next few days.
Okay. The next question is related to the very first one in terms of autumn calving, so I won't go back over that. The question that follows that is a concern on the price maybe that genotype heifers may make when this scheme is launched. That concern was conveyed prior to BDGP as well, and a scheme I was heavily involved in my previous role, and that never transpired, to be honest. Alan, you can come in here at any time as well. There's plenty of those type of heifers out there if you want to get them, but you just need them in time. And I suppose a change from other years would be that there was a rush in October in the reference years during the BDGP to get these animals, have them in the herd on the 31st of October, and then possibly offload them or beef them early November. You're tied up more in the rules by what Alan said. I suppose this viewer is concerned that he doesn't see too many of them come through the marts at the moment, and will they be out there? Will they be available? Alan, come in there at any time.
Yeah. Look, you've answered it fairly well there, Vivian. I'd imagine they will be available. Look, at the market will decide the price ultimately anyways. And as you said there, you have to have the number, we'll say, whether it's the 50%, the 65 to 75 by the 31st of October in those years. But then you must retain that number for the next 12 months going forward. Again, we'll wait the terms and conditions to see if there's some bit of leeway on that at the time. But there should be enough of them out there, like, you know, because there will be more genotyping being done. The genotyping is going from 60 to 70%. So there should be more of them available there. I'd imagine that shouldn't be an issue, you know.
Just to add to that comment, and I suppose in time, with the amount of people that are in the scheme, they've been forced to use 4 and 5 star bulls, either in replacement or terminal. So that in itself will feed more of those type animals in the system. Just on a point of clarification, can you also define the 16-month rule for the stars? It's the same, I think, as the BDG, but maybe just go back over that briefly again, please.
The 16-month rule is, that if a heifer is 16 months on the 31st of October, and she's genotyped 4 or 5 star again, she will qualify, okay, for this as a female.
Similar to a cow, basically.
Yeah, but just to add in again a word of caution on that, Vivian. In the past, some farmers use that where they reduced cow numbers dramatically, again, as we said, down to 2 or 3, and they were using a lot of these heifers to make up that requirement. Again, just remember that say you have the 20 cows, you must calve 10 of them down during the year. So your full quota can't be made up of these 16-month-old heifers. You'll probably only make up a few of them, you know.
Another one here, and it's a long-winded question. We'll try and give it as brief an answer as possible if you can, Ellen. What does the S+ involve, or the Board B quality assurance scheme?
Yeah, there's a lot in that, Vivian. Now, just to answer, like, it's applying to be quality assurance for beef, like, you know. So we'll say initially it's just to say it for everyone's clarification there, initially it's just a 1-page application that you send in down to Prairie. It's a fairly straightforward application. After that, you will have an auditor come out. You would also get a pack sent out. Quality assurance pack will be sent out to you. So there is a certain amount of record keeping that you have to do, but there's a lot of different headings, Vivian, that you look under in terms of animal welfare, how you're treating your animals, how you're looking after them, the feed that you're giving them, how you're minding that feed. We'll say the likes of putting down bait for rats. There's a lot of different things there, and also withdrawal periods on your medicines is an important part. A lot of farmers will be doing this in the past anyways for cross compliance, like, you know. So it's a matter really of documenting it a lot more then maybe, and having the records available on an audit.
But it's no more onerous than a Department of Agricultural inspection, cross compliance, or so on. It's a good thing to be involved in, because it keeps you, I suppose, in check with that. Yeah. Okay. 1 or 2 more now. We're almost out of time. Again, Alan, is the 4 or 5 star requirement across all breeds or within breed for either the bull or the commercial animals, I should say. For the females, no, it's across or within the breed, like. So once they're 4 or 5 star on the replacement index, that's if it's the female requirement. That's the important thing there. Yes, just to make that maybe possibly clearer, within the breed is generally for a pedigree animal. So if you have a pedigree limousine cow within her breed, she's 4 and 5 star for replacement, and a crossbreed is compared in an Angus cross Frisian with maybe a Simmental cross limousine. So that's the crossbreed. So within breed is confined to pedigrees generally, and a crossbreeds is how they treat commercial animals. Let's see, just 1 or 2 more now before we finish up and hand back to Brendan. And again, thanks to the viewers for all the questions. A quick one here, and I'm sure it'll be possible, Ellen. If a farmer isn't suckler farming this year for whatever reason, and aims to start suckling next year, do you think the scheme will be open and they could join next year?
I don't know about that one, Vivian, because it's open now, and it's just a 5-year program. I know on the BDGP in the past there was a BDGP 1 and then a BDGP 2, but it's not clear from what the department have said so far whether it's going to be available. Maybe we'll have to wait on that one, like, you know. We haven't got any indication on that. I know on maybe the sheep scheme, I think it is going to be available for them, but on this one, I'm not too sure just yet.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Peter. I'll hand back to Brendan just to wrap up for the evening.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Indeed, thanks again to our 2 panelists here this evening, Peter and Alan there, for the help with this webinar this evening. And indeed, thanks to Vivian there for facilitating the questions and answers here tonight, and indeed over the last 3 weeks as well. So, but most importantly, look, thanks to you this evening at home for engaging with us tonight and throughout the series. And we estimate that almost 700 farmers have tuned into the series there live, with many more watching back on YouTube. We hope you found this webinar beneficial. We'll get the recording uploaded to the Teagasc Mayo YouTube channel in the coming days, and you can indeed watch back any other previous episodes or indeed videos there on that channel. All that's left for me to say is that we hope you enjoyed these webinars over the last few weeks. And before I finish, I'd like to thank a few of my colleagues there for their help in making this series a success, including Bernadette Lynn there in Teagasc and Ballinrobe, for sending out weekly reminders there to our farmers here in the region, and to Tara Guinan there in the PR department there for organising our weekly and series posters. And indeed, thanks to our Wall Scholar and Master student there, Damien Gibbons there in Teagasc and Ballinrobe there, for helping out over the last number of weeks with presentations. So, and finally, I suppose, look at 2023 there is a year of huge change, as we've mentioned over the last number of weeks. As I suppose my advice there is to keep in contact with your advisor, to allow more time there for completing your applications in 2023, as these schemes are all new for advisors and for farmers. So it will take longer to complete these applications. So with that, and until next time, it's good night from us all here in Teagasc and Mayo, and we'll see you all again very soon, folks. Good night, folks. Thank you for watching the series.